Donald Trump is facing intense new pressure over his taxes. Just days after Hillary Clinton put him on the spot at the first presidential debate, the New York Times has dropped a potential bombshell. It's obtained documents allegedly showing that Trump filed a loss of more than $900 million U.S. in 1995. The paper says such a massive hit could have allowed him to avoid paying taxes for as many as 18 years. Now, that would have been legal. And according to some leading lights in the Trump campaign, it would have been smart thinking, including Trump himself.
The reality is he's a genius. What he did was he took advantage of something that could save his enterprise, and he did something we admire in America. He came back.
The genius of Donald Trump has been to make sure that he follows the law, which is exactly what he's done. And politically, he has said that he's going to change these laws and that there's no one who's better suited to change these laws than someone like him.
Let's bring in our U.S. political panel right there. Paul Brandis of West Wing Reports and Louisa Savage of Politico, both joining me once again this week from our Washington studio. Louisa, let me start with you. Genius? What do you make of it?
Well, I think this is an amazing revelation because it says, number one, that he probably did not pay taxes, and this is why he's not releasing his tax return. And number two, it emphasizes that he lost nearly $1 billion, which discredits his whole argument about being a genius businessman. But I think the important thing is, what does Trump do next? You just heard his supporters saying he knows this tax code better than anyone. He wants to fix it. If you look at the tax proposals that he has put forward, all the analysts say these favor the wealthy and they favor corporations and business. So will he come out and say, look, this is the problem with the tax code. People like me get away without contributing. I'm going to change that because I'm a man of the people. I'm running as this populist candidate against the establishment, or is he simply going to double down and say he did nothing wrong and he was smart to exploit the loophole? It's hard to do that when you're also the guy saying, you know, our infrastructure is crumbling. We have so many problems. We're going to, you know, spend billions of dollars on infrastructure when I'm president. Whose money are you spending? Is it that of all the working people? So this creates both a problem and an opportunity for him, depending on how he plays it next.
How do you think he'll play it next, Paul?
Well, $900 million, it's about 1.1 billion loonies. I mean, it's not that he didn't break the law. It's perfectly legal in this country to avoid paying taxes. Everybody tries to minimize their taxes. His problem is one of imagery. And the question, by the way, is I'd like to know if he's such a smart businessman, losing $900 million in 1995. The stock market was up by 34% that year. So there's kind of a story behind the story there. But I think going forward, he will simply say, look, I said all along that I was smart. These laws are legal. We need to change them. But the tax proposals that he has laid forth frankly, tilt more in favor of people like him. He has talked about things like infrastructure that really needs to be rebuilt in this country. And you ran that great Bernie Sanders clip a couple of minutes ago. Who is actually going to pay for this? Clearly not him. It's going to be folks on the lower end of the income scale who don't have advantage to high-priced accountants and folks like that who can help them find these loopholes to write off their taxes. So it's not that he did anything illegal. It's a problem of imagery, and I think that's a big problem for him. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Hillary Clinton is going to be all over this at their next debate a week from tonight, and this vice presidential debate on Tuesday as well.
Well, Donald Trump, speaking of Hillary Clinton, vowed that he could be nastier than Hillary Clinton, and last night he seemed to keep that promise. Let's take a listen.
Hillary Clinton's only loyalty is to her financial contributors and to herself. I don't even think she's loyal to Bill. You want to know the truth? And really, folks, really, why should she be, right? Why should she be?
Okay, Louisa, it seems to me what he's doing here is he's bringing it up without actually bringing it up.
Right. He wants me and you to be talking about it right now on Sunday morning.
And here we
about
are.
Monica Lewinsky and Clinton and so on. Look, there are two problems with this attack. One is he's a very imperfect messenger. Here's a guy who's had his own affairs and multiple marriages and so on. So, I mean, who is he to throw stones? But secondly, America likes Hillary Clinton when she's the victim. I mean, this helped her early in her political career. Her approval ratings were high during the whole scandal. Nobody's going to blame her for the infidelities of her husband. And even if she, didn't believe his accusers or was dismissive of them or called them names, I think most people would empathize with a scorned wife, a wronged wife, being angry about the other woman. I mean, that seems pretty human. So I don't know that this wins him a lot of points with women to go down this route. And it just keeps debasing the whole conversation over and over, just as he did in, I think we have to say, in what's been a disastrous week for him coming out of the last debate. I mean, she had the stronger debate. But he could have managed it, he could have spun it, but instead he doubled down on some of the crazy stuff, getting in this big Twitter war with a beauty contest contestant, and just kept it at that supermarket tabloid level, and that's where he's going again. And I just don't think this serves him well, because that's not what voters care about.
Paul, do you think that it was a disastrous week for Donald Trump, and do you think that he's actually helping people to like Hillary by reminding them that she was the wronged spouse?
Well, the polls certainly seem to indicate that she had a better week than he did, Carol. I think that's fair to say that she wiped the floor clean with him in the debate. He got a couple of good points in, but the last hour of the debate, the real Trump came out. I mean, he didn't practice, he didn't prepare, he showed his lack of impulse control. And the broader issue is for people who say, well, we need a guy like that who, tells it like it is. I remind people that here's a guy who has no impulse control, who's rash and undisciplined, who is also talked about in rather casual terms using nuclear weapons. I mean, it's kind of a bad combination, don't you think? And the whole fight in these middle-of-the-night tweets the other day, trashing this beauty queen, when you are digging yourself into a hole, you're best advised to stop digging. He simply doesn't have the discipline to do that, and he walked into this Clinton trap. They've been laying these traps for him for months. He walked right into it, and I don't buy for a second that he's going to practice and rehearse for this debate coming up a week from now. It may be too. He just doesn't have the discipline and the focus to do it, I don't think.
Yeah,
he really had a tough week.
Louisa, you believe it was a disastrous week as well, but any impact on the women's vote whatsoever?
I think there's been an impact on women who were looking to this, who were undecided, who were trying to see, does he come out as the chief executive, as the strong on national security, thoughtful, does he offer an alternative to some of the problems that the Obama administration's been facing on national security? I think there are a lot of women, they call them the national security moms. I mean, this is a big issue. And instead, he delivered this petty, almost misogynistic argument over this beauty queen, and it emerged that he did all kinds of, I would say, almost cruel things to her, forcing her to work out in front of television cameras, and this whole thing, calling her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina. I mean, that's incredibly damaging. I think if you're Latino or Hispanic, you could imagine him saying that to your mother, your sister, your daughter. I mean, it's just been one thing after another. This is why I say he had a weak debate, but what he's done since then has shown him to be, as Paul said, incredibly undisciplined and just crude and thoughtless. So, going into the next debate, either he completely turns it around, or it's just hard to see how he will change the minds of those moderate Republican swing voters in the suburbs who haven't been comfortable with him. And so far, Hillary Clinton is winning white women, and those are the women who tend to, in the past, lean Republican.
Okay, let's turn to a much lighter note now. Here's actor Alec Baldwin doing his best version of Trump on Saturday Night Live last night.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Our jobs are fleeing this country. They're going to Mexico. They're going to China. I will stop that. If Hillary knew how, she would have done it already, period. End of story. I won the debate. I stayed calm, just like I promised, and it is over. Good night, Hofstra.
Donald, there's still 88 minutes left. It's a 90-minute debate.
My microphone is broken.
That was huge.
Huge. Paul, what'd you think?
I think, Alec Baldwin was just spot on. But look, I mean, Trump, he keeps making mistake after mistake. I mean, he's just a caricature for everything that's wrong about him. I mean, Alec Baldwin was just great. I mean, I can't really add to that. I mean, Trump really has to be more buttoned down, more focused, more polished. In other words, everything he has no capability of doing. I mean, again, to come back to the earlier point, I don't believe for a minute that he can practice, that he can be more disciplined, more focused, and get his points out. I mean, the whole purpose of these debates is twofold. It's one, to knock your opponent off his or her feet, to put them on the defensive. Clinton did that, but it's also, in a broader sense, frankly, to explain to the country what you want to do, where you want to take the country over the next 4 years. Trump really did not do that. Politics is really a matter of inclusion. You want more people in your tent. It's not a matter of exclusion. In other words, insulting people and making them run away. That's just a cardinal rule of politics that Trump simply can't remember. Every time he opens his mouth, people flee, and he just doesn't know how to control it.
Some people are saying what they saw last night was Alec Baldwin's is to Trump what Tina Fey was to Sarah Palin. Louisa, do you think that's fair?
Well, I think what they're getting at with that comment is that they merge in the public's mind, and you start to think that, oh, some of those things I saw on Saturday Night Live, Trump actually said them. I mean, in this case, it's really hard to satirize a man who's so larger than life. I mean, how much further can you go? But I think good comedy succeeds when it really sheds a sharp light on a particular truth. And I think that Saturday Night Live skit last night showed, number one, that Trump could not get beyond his few very surface talking points, that he just had nothing more to say about what he would do to fix these problems that he's diagnosing and that his followers want fixed. And second, they did shed a harsh light on Hillary Clinton as well, which was that she was very canned, she was very rehearsed, she had these sort of artificial sounding lines that she was waiting to come out with. And yet it didn't matter because she was able just to sit back and watch him, self-destruct. And certainly in the week following the debate, he just kept digging that hole ever deeper. So we'll see if he can climb out of it.
Well, you know what they say about politics, by the way, with the Clinton, it's sort of an old Harry Truman thing, that is, once you can fake insincerity, you've got it made. And she certainly did that. Let's
look ahead to this week, because the focus will shift from the would-be presidents to their running mates. Mike Pence and Tim Kaine will face off in their own debate Tuesday. Paul, what will you be watching for there?
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, Pence is an arch conservative. Tim Kaine, the exact opposite. He is much farther to the left than Hillary. Of course, he's from swing state of Virginia, which is one of the reasons why he was spoken. These presidential debates traditionally don't really have that much of an impact. There have been a couple of exceptions, but clearly they're going to be a sort of a proxy war for the Clinton-Trump battle itself. I think Pence will probably try and, I don't want to say correct, but perhaps move some of Trump's messages back onto a track that's more palatable for viewers, perhaps. And I think Kaine will simply try to keep taking advantage of the momentum that Clinton got from the debate the other night. So I think those are the things to look for.
Louisa, last word to you.
Sure. I think all the pressure is on Mike Pence. And, nobody votes for vice president, but they exist to be a bridge to certain constituencies and build certain relationships. So it'll be on Mike Pence to explain to traditional conservative Republicans why they should vote for Donald Trump. And if he can make that case and lay out what the stakes are, he could help rally Republicans who will just hold their nose and say, I don't like Trump as a person, but there's a broader conservative Republican cause here. As for Tim Kaine, he's a very likable guy. He just has to not screw up. He speaks fluent Spanish. He can certainly build some bridges to Latino voters. And can he somehow rally those progressive and young voters who've been reticent about Hillary Clinton and haven't embraced her the way that they embraced Bernie Sanders? So there's an opportunity for him as well. But basically, he can hang back and just see how Mike Pence manages to close that gap between some of Trump's positions, which are diametrically opposed to a lot of Republican views on a lot of issues.
I'll bet Mike Pence is preparing.
I bet he is.
I bet he is.
Louisa Savage of Politico and Paul Brandis of West Wing Reports in Washington, thank you.
Thank you.